and we're going to skip right into route realignment editing. All right, so this is where we're going to start talking about service patterns, alignments, and segments, how they all work together to make up the service pattern. All right, so what is a TBEST route segment? It is, route segments are linear alignments which collectively make up a sequential geometry of a route pattern, meaning that their endpoints are connected, right? So when you're developing a network, they generally need to be, networks need to be connected. So, and the same applies with TBEST. If you're developing segments and you start with a single segment, the next segment needs to be connected to it at its endpoints, right? It can't be out in space somewhere. It needs to be connected at endpoints. So TBEST forces you to have connected geometry so that it can do what it needs to do for modeling and accessibility and all those things that happen inside of TBEST. So segments can define an entire route pattern alignment, the alignment between time points or other partition based on user needs. So an example of this would be you are developing a route. Part of that route is on a highway that operates at, let's say, 40, 50 miles per hour on average. And then part of it is in a dense city street that operates at 15 miles per hour. So certainly you would want to make a split of your segments at those locations where the actual travel times and speeds would change, right? Speeds in particular. And then you can assign those speeds to those segments. Okay. So TBEST manages time of day in vehicle travel time at the segment level. So we talked about this a little bit earlier in that it manages this information at the segment level and you can define it at that level. The best practice is to create segments between known time points, which TBEST automatically does. Whenever you import from GTFS, all of this is done automatically for you during the GTFS import if time points are known in the GTFS. If there aren't time points in GTFS, it creates an end-to-end, meaning beginning to end of the alignment is just one segment. To add and edit segment alignments and stops, the owning route pattern must be active. All right, so what does that mean? It basically means that it basically activates that route so that the network editing toolbar is available and you're able to actually make adjustments to that route, meaning add segments, remove segments, add stops, etc., and move stops. All of those are available once it's in active mode. So just in terms of route pattern editing, there are directional routes. So in this example, we have on Route 21, we have 2 southbound patterns and we have 3 northbound patterns. So each one of those has its own path, it has its own stops, its own service that define the overall service for Route 21. Now, for circulator routes, the example here is there are 2 these are the limo routes in downtown Orlando, which are circulator BRT routes. They really just have one pattern. It's just a circular loop. And the same with 61. So in this case, there's just one pattern in one direction. So just so you know that TBEST manages that as well. So to add a route pattern, you would just go to your Route 88 in this case. You would right click on, let's say you wanted to add it to the eastbound. You would right click on, just illustrate this eastbound, and you would get this new route pattern, eastbound 88 AM, and it would add that to the list of eastbound patterns, but it would be empty. You would then need to add service to it. All right, so this is what it looks like when you activate a route pattern. So the example here is our Route 21, our southbound 3341 pattern. It is showing us in the map, it bolds out our Route 21, 33441 pattern. It shows us it begins here at this. So there's a 1 here. That is the segment endpoint. So that is the very beginning of the route. What you also see here is there is a 1 here. So essentially this pattern corresponds to this segment corresponds to the first segment that runs from this time point to the number 2 time point, right? So that is the definition of this segment. So it holds this alignment, and the record for it is here. It has these in vehicle travel times by time of day, and this is the length. So going through this, you go to 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then the very end point of it is here, but you also have individual segment endpoints at the interim time points, right? So it's basically showing you the alignment, the stops, the direction, and then also giving you the route editor toolbar. So it activates that and it shows up. And you also see this route statistics panel at the bottom, which we'll get into on the next slide. Okay, so here are the route pattern segment endpoints. This is a little better view of what I was just showing you, the network editing toolbar, and all of the what I just described on the previous slide, including the route statistics panel. So just in terms of the markers for the display endpoints, the green is the begin point, blue is the interim points, red is the endpoint. We also have yellow. So as you're network editing, you may come into a situation where you have a disconnected segment that doesn't connect where it should. It doesn't have a connecting segment, and it will show up as a yellow disconnected endpoint. And it's telling you that you need to connect it. So the route statistics panel, if we dig into that just a little bit, so what this does is dynamically provides feedback when creating and editing route patterns. So as you're editing, whether you're adding new stops or you're defining the alignment, you're creating service, it will automatically update this toolbar, giving you the length, the number of stops, the spacing. You have a socioeconomic portion, you have a service portion. You can toggle those variables if you're running out of space on your bar. But if you have enough space, it will show all of them at once. And these will automatically update as you're changing your service. So it's very valuable then as you're developing this to see interactively your trips, your spacing, your travel times and speeds, along with the markets that you're serving. All right, so what are some of the tools here for digitizing our service? We have our segments where we can add trace shortest roadway path using the OpenStreetMap API. So this, we'll demonstrate this, but basically you're tracing the network, meaning the road network using an API. So there is no local base network or roadway. It's going out to the internet using OpenStreetMap to basically use the shortest path between any point you click on the map and where your cursor is, right? So we'll go through all of that. We also have a freehand digitizing where you can where there is no roadway, so like a parking lot, or if you're digitizing a rail line, there is no roadway network, then you can use the freehand digitizing to do that. You can also copy segments between route patterns, use a route realignment tool, copy patterns between routes, and copy to the reverse direction. Okay, some options here at the bottom end here of our toolbar. We can set our segment endpoints visible. We can toggle that. And sometimes that's helpful because the endpoints of the segments, sometimes those markers overlap the stops and you can't see the stops. So it's helpful to toggle those sometimes. The zoom to on route pattern activation. Sometimes if you're editing in a tight area and you're trying to edit multiple alignments kind of concurrently and you're switching between them, you don't want it to zoom out every time. You can toggle that so that it doesn't zoom. And then you have the route statistics panel. If you want to take that off, you can toggle that off as well. So that's the settings. And then the close button at the very bottom. So this button closes the network and stops the closes the toolbar and stops editing the pattern. So basically this closes out of editing mode when you close the toolbar. Okay, segment insert behavior. New segments will automatically be populated with the average speed for the active route pattern. TBES will automatically populate existing network stops on the right side of the segment. So as you're digitizing and you add a new segment, TBES will go and look for all the existing stops that exist in the network. And if one exists on the right-hand side of your alignment, your segment that you're digitizing, it will add that to your segment. Segments must be inserted at connection endpoints with other segments on the same route pattern. And TBES will snap the digitized endpoint to the connecting segment endpoint within 200 feet. So if you're trying to connect up different segments and continue editing multiple segments, it will snap if that endpoint is within 200 feet. So our segment attributes, most of these we've talked about already, so I won't go into too much detail other than to say that in the segments view, you have the ability to switch between in-vehicle time and speed. So, and either one of those are editable, right? So if you switch this toggle, these values will either show up as speed values or in-vehicle time. So if you know that you want to have a certain operating speed on a segment or an entire route pattern, you can input the speeds rather than the in-vehicle time. So if you input the speeds, it will automatically calculate the in-vehicle time and vice versa. All right. So you can also do a segment calculator. So where this is a value is certainly if you have speeds, let's say you have a route that you have existing speeds on and you want to increase or decrease the speeds by a certain percentage of the existing, then you can use this tool that calculates segments to set the speed, and you can say plus or minus a percentage of the current value. In this case, it's 10%. And then you can set that for a selected group of time periods. In this case, it's just the weekday. And then it will automatically update all of those, increase them by 10% of their existing value. So overall, you're increasing all your speeds by 10%. Okay, so let's go through the network editing. So this is going to be, obviously we're going to walk through this together, but as we're doing it, you also can, if you need assistance on any one thing that's happening, just go over into the breakout room and Sam will help you if you're having trouble with digitizing or things aren't working out. Because it does take a little bit of getting used to, right? It's not just, hey, I'm just drawing the line, everything's great. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and I certainly will demonstrate it. So certainly stick around in here for the first part, absolutely, as we walk through some of the simpler items, and then I'll demonstrate the actual kind of shortest path network editing. So let's begin. Any questions? Nope. So we'll go ahead and start. All right. So we're going to start out in our 2035 constraint plan, and we're going to right-click on it and open the Scenario Network Editor. And we're going to create a new route by going to our route tools. We can also just click this Add New Route button. And we're going to make this a radial bus route, and it's going to be Route 88. And it's going to be called Tower Road/UF. And our directional descriptions will be eastbound. So if I select eastbound, it will automatically populate westbound for direction A and direction B. And our route color is fine. Green is okay. So that's really it. We just say okay. And our new Route 88 is listed in our routes. We can see it says Tower Road. Now also notice that it received the defaults, right? So 6.92 per mile. We still had 60 seats listed in our defaults. for our transit system policy settings. So that might be something that we need to go back and edit. But certainly we could just make that edit here too. So we can update that policy setting, switch that, or sorry, update the vehicle seats to 55 and hit update. Yes, and close. So now we're right at 55 seats for that, for our new Tower Road. All right, so let's save it. So now our new Route 88 is saved in that scenario. Okay, so to set this up, we're going to add an alignment, right? And, you know, in general, most of the time when you're digitizing, you're going to know generally where you want to go. But because this is a workshop, we need to give you a hand and provide you some context for what we want to digitize. So to do that, we're going to add a user layer, and we're going to use our tools to do that. So I'm on exercise part 2, adding a route alignment reference layer to the TBES map. So we're going to go ahead and go to our map control, and we're going to pin it. So it pins out here to the right. So now we see we have our Gatorville stops and our parcels and census, all that's great. So what we want to do is use the add data button to add data. And this is going to be a local mobile geodatabase or shapefile. And it's going to be our Route 88 alignment. So for, you know, it forwarded me to the TAZ folder, but I can just shift up to Route 88 alignment, so which is right here, and our routes.shape. Okay, so it should look something like this, what you're getting to. I'll just say okay. All right, so what happens is it adds that layer to the map and also to our map control. And so what we can do is to bold this out a little bit. If I just right click on the routes user layer and select layer properties, I can probably just make this a 2.5. And maybe I can set the color to be a different color. Red is pretty bold, but probably good. But if we wanted to make it orange, that's okay too. And hit apply. If we like what we see, good enough, right? And you can make whatever color you'd like. Okay, so we have our alignment. So this is the general alignment that we're going to use for coding our new Route 88. All right, so we'll go ahead and pin our map control. We don't need it right now. So we'll go ahead and auto hide it so it goes away. We can also auto hide the Explorer window because we don't really need that right now. So we can hide that, give ourselves some more space on the map. Okay, so next. All right, so I'm on part 3, digitize the Route 88 alignment westbound. All right, so it says, see the proposed alignment reference map on the next slide. So you all can probably see this, but basically we're going to start at this location, which is right at the stadium, the UF stadium. And we're going to digitize around and come out to the west and then come down and then end at, there's an elementary school right here. And we're gonna complete this westbound pattern alignment right at this. So we're gonna begin here and end here. All right, so there's some segment digitizing instructions on this slide as well. So you use the arrow keys when you're digitizing on the keyboard to pan the map while you're digitizing. That's probably the easiest way to do it. You can also use the mouse scroll to zoom out and in. You can use the equals key and the minus key to zoom out as well on the keyboard. Each point you click will define a waypoint. You can use the delete key or to undo the last digitized segment waypoint button, or to remove the last waypoint, and you can use the escape key to actually clear the digitized segment. All right. So, and then you have this exit edit mode, which we'll display. But these are what you can refer to as you're digitizing to say, how do I navigate while I'm digitizing? Okay. All right. So I think we had a question, or did we have a question? Okay.
Yeah, hand raised, but then it disappeared.
Oh, okay.
I didn't catch who it was.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so we're going to demonstrate. I just want to kind of set this all up for you. So when I begin this, I basically want to kind of zoom in here, and we're going to start on this westbound pattern. If I right click on it, I can say start editing route pattern. I can also just double click on it. So what that does is it goes into edit mode. So I mentioned earlier how it brings out the network editing toolbar. We have our statistics panel, which is all empty because we don't have any alignments or stops or service, which we're going to define now. All right. So let me get a drink of water. All right. So our start point begins here, right at the UF Stadium. So basically this little roadway that goes into the stadium. I'm going to click this define route pattern segment. So if you can follow along, but it's probably best just to watch what I'm doing, and then you'll have plenty of time to do your own digitizing. So when I click that button, it actually goes into an edit mode where everything is kind of grayed out, and all you can really do is edit on the map, right? And when you're done editing on the map, you hit this exit edit mode, and that takes you out of it. So to begin, I'm going to just click a point right here at this intersection. When you see that as I'm doing it, I'm moving my mouse, it's following my mouse, right? So, and if I click at any one location, it creates a waypoint. So at that point, it then takes the shortest path from my waypoint to my cursor. So as I continue out, I can click different waypoints, and you can see if I come off of the main road, it will take a different direction. But I'm really just following my alignment, right? So I have my alignment, and I can use my arrow keys, and now I can zoom or pan using the arrow key, and you can see that it just continues to follow my cursor to along this alignment. Okay, I'm still heading west. It's still following my cursor. So I'm going to take a left out here. And basically, here's my left turn. So I'm going to click a waypoint right here and continue on and following the alignment. And then I can come out here. And basically at this elementary school, I'm just going to double click right around here. And when I double click, it inserts the segment. So up until that point, it hadn't inserted anything. It was really just following along, right? So if I zoom back out a little bit and I exit the edit mode, what I see is that I have my alignment. See, I have a 1 here and an S here, meaning it starts here and ends here. I have an 11.3 mile long length segment. It's 24 stops that were actually pulled from the existing network. So it found those stops and it added it to my network or to my existing or to my alignment that I'm digitizing. And it's showing me a population and jobs that are around those stops that were added. So that's kind of it, right? So now there are ways too that you can, if I begin editing, if I start editing here and I'm like, oh, I didn't want to do that, I can hit escape and that will take me out of it, complete out of that editing session, right? I'm still in the mode, but I can now start again. Also, if I'm editing and I've clicked a waypoint here and I'm like, oh, I didn't really want to click that waypoint, I can hit the delete key and it will remove the last waypoints, right? So I have this waypoint. If I want to hit the delete key again, it will go back to where I started. And if I hit escape, I'm all the way back out of it. And then when I'm ready to finish, I hit exit edit mode, and then I'm back into choosing other tools, etc. All right, so go ahead and continue. You all watch, but if you want to go into the breakout room right now and have Sam help you, if you're editing yourselves and things aren't quite working in the way it did for me, then Sam could help you in the breakout room with individual cases. Okay, so I will just continue and add this, and then when I finish, then I might be available to help individuals as well. So, so I'm going to hit save here and save my my digitized segment. I'm also going to start my eastbound segment, right? So, so I'm moving on to, this is digitized Route 88 eastbound. So in the routes panel, double click on the Route 88 eastbound. So I will do that, double click. Now that's active. You notice that the toolbar is still here, but we're back to having zeros. That's because 88 eastbound is empty, right? We don't have any alignments or anything defined for it. But what we know is that it's going to come back to the east and it's going to begin at this location. We ended our westbound point right here. So we're going to begin eastbound at that location. So we're going to begin right here. And I'm just going to click to start. And again, it's doing the shortest path tool. And I can just use my arrow key, or I can just zoom out a little bit if that's okay. Gives me a little wider context and go a little faster. Zoom. And so maybe I'll set a waypoint right here and then continue on towards the east. Again, it takes the shortest path, so it's not always the bus path. So I'll set a waypoint right here, and we'll continue on from that location. So the shortest path from that point that I just digitized. Now we want to come down into the stadium area and make sure that we're following the right path. So click a waypoint right here. And then we know that we began right here, so we want to end right here. So I'm going to double click to end. All right. Okay, so I'm going to exit edit mode. And I'm going to go to my map control, and we don't really need this routes layer anymore, so I'm just going to remove it. So we can see a little bit better how our route alignments are looking, right? So to me, we have our one segment that's in the eastbound, and if I double click on the westbound, then it will zoom to it and show me, okay, it starts here. Here are the stops that it collected from existing routes, and then on to our endpoint here. So to me, that looks pretty good. And we'll just save the scenario from here. Okay. All right. So if anyone following along had any questions, and then I'd be happy to answer them. I'm going to switch over to the exercise room and see if there's what's going on over there. I'll be right back. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. All right. So we have our a new alignment. We've digitized the westbound. We realigned westbound based on a change that needed to be made, and so now we have it. Now, let's say that we actually don't really want all these segments. We want to condense these to just maybe a single segment again. We can use by selecting two segments that are in sequence together. So these are the first two segments. We can then use this merge tool. So there's a merge two connected segments here. You also have the same tool up here. So you can merge two connected segments. So that merges them. And if we want to merge the final two, we can use the same button over here. So then it just becomes one segment that makes up the entire path. All right, so let's save it. So that's our example for digitizing. Hopefully everyone got that. And now we're going to move on to our stops editor.